all, I'm Katie Resendez. I'm the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. Thank you. And I'm going to ask people to come forward and sit down around here because we need to recreate a little bit of our Watts neighborhood from last week. So if you remember, it was a lot of people in this area and some spread out stuff and people here. We had some farmers who had their acreage, right? We had black families who came in during wartime to work in war industries. And then we had more families coming in. We're going to reference back to it, so I want to make sure we remember it. And one of the best ways to do that, does anyone know the 2 best ways to remember something if you're recalling a full story? Write it down is a good one, but the 2 senses to go with are your ideas of proximity, so you're feeling and being in the same texture and movement space. And then the number 1 is your sense of smell. So now if everyone who wore the same deodorant last week that they wore this week could go like this, great, perfect. Okay. And I need, for this first part, I'm gonna need someone to kindly hold my mic because I need 2 hands. Bela, could you be my assistant for a moment? Okay, mic plus scissors. Okay, so I want us to do a movement. The movement involves one hand being kind of wild and doing whatever you want with it, and then the other hand coming in and being a line and holding it down. So keeping one hand moving and keeping the other hand held down. It's kind of hard. There's a weird tension. And do you feel the space between your 2 hands? That it actually feels deeply uncomfortable, right?
Hello.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Okay, so live into this feeling for a second. Feel that in-between space between your 2 hands. Some people call that itchy. Some people say it feels like they're stretched or too much pressure. Remember that feeling. Okay. In the US, we have a lot of phrases that include the word liberty. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty Mutual Insurance. Liberty of Omaha, which, if you're my age, that means lions and tigers and bears. Which makes no sense, I promise. But this idea of liberty is something that we say a lot and we don't think about too much. And that yet this year, here at UUCP, we've been talking about liberation a whole lot. And what liberation looks like in different traditions. And specifically, we're thinking about liberation theology. So liberty, at its core, what do people feel like that means? What does liberty mean? And even what are your associations with things like the Statue of Liberty? Liberty. Freedom. A sense of freedom, a sense of openness. Sometimes it's connected to welcoming, ability to do things. What about liberation? Say it again. Choices. I like that. Okay, so you've got the wild hand, right? And the stopping hand. The stopping hand is stopping choices, right? The wild hand can't do everything it was doing before. Yet this hand, the stopping hand, can still do pretty much anything it wants to. Okay, we know where we're going with this, right? Okay. So, it is tiring. It is very tiring. And it's very exhausting, not just on our hands, but on our whole system. It's exhausting. So, we got the liberation part has to do with this being taken away, right? That pressing down hand. The theology part. Theology, we connect in the UU congregations and thoughts to spirituality and finding our place in the world. So for right now, and there's lots of definitions of theology, but for right now, let's hold a community definition. And that definition is that our theology is how we organize the world and organize forces in the world to think about our place and the place of other people in the world, right? So theology is how we think about where everyone belongs. So liberation theology comes together and is we organize the world in thinking about freedom. So we organize the world and we think about the existence of be it Mother Nature, be it God, be it whoever you may think or whatever or anything organizes the world, consciousness, science, without this top hand. Right, exactly. It means that there must be something that's being this hand, right? The controlling hand. So let's go back to Watts. What happened when the neighborhood got full up but was still only 10 square acres? There was this terrible chief of police, and he pointed out that there was tons more cheese sandwiches in the neighborhood, right? No, he focused on something else. What did he say? There was black people and crime. And he said those two things are connected. And so he created this concept called the thin blue line. So what I want you to know is that this hand isn't always a physical hand, sometimes it's a concept. And the thin blue line is one of those concepts. It was saying there is us and there is them, and in between them we have this controlling force. And that controlling force is an oppressive force. So we're thinking oppressive, liberative, right? Okay, I don't have two hands. Jared, will you be my hands for a second? You can do it right from there. Can you show me your oppressive hand and your liberation hand? Good. Now take your oppressing hand away. Way cooler, right? I like that. So what are some other oppressive forces that we can think of? Concepts of thin blue line, perfection, holding ourselves to perfection, concepts of sin and shame, the idea that there are good people and bad people, smart people and dumb people. And then there's laws. Who gets to live in what parts of cities? Who can be certain types of jobs? There's banking rules. You get to take out a loan to open a business, but I would never let someone who looks like this open a business. I mean, you know, you're just a bigger risk. I mean, we've met him. No. Not reasonable at all, at all. So, we've got liberation. Liberation is reaching, searching, acting in freedom and in joy. Oppression is controlling and wrangling in and setting boundaries where there don't need to be any, okay? Third concept, abolition. So what we've always done in the US, and actually, Jonas, would you mind being my demonstration for a second? Okay, just put your arm like this, because I picked him because it's easy for me to fit under his arm. So we've always said this is what oppression is like, right? Like, I'm the liberating thing, I want to be free, and this is stopping me. And we've always said that it is my job to push up through and get smarter and bigger and taller and be like him. And that is how I find my freedom. And that it is my job to push up through Jonas. Now, if I'm down here and I've been pushing down here this whole time, I'm exhausted, right, Bela? How can we as a society say, Miss Katie, just stand up? So that's where abolition comes in. Abolition is the person, from the outside, from the inside, wherever that strength is. Put up my oppression again. Thank you for my oppression. Who's here. And then Owen, can you lift his arm up for me? This is probably my favorite together time ever, where I get to wiggle the whole time. And then I don't have to do the work. Thank you. And so we're actively working towards abolition. Right? Yes. Can you tell we've been talking about anarchy and rule setting in Toolbox of Faith? Yes, and therefore in the car as well. So, okay, we've got our big concepts. Liberation, oppression, abolition. If you are not feeling oppressed, number one, you're wrong, because if there's oppression in the system, you are oppressed. Number two, if you aren't feeling the weight and the exhaustion of the oppression, that means that you have energy to put towards abolition. And you are required to do so for the health of the entire system. This summer, for June and July, there will be a space open on campus called the Abolition Station. There'll be a number of centers set up in the room and activities where you can explore the concept of abolition, specifically looking at what that means when we look at punishment, the criminal system, and prisons. I'm going to repeat that. Bela said prisons are dumb. But that'll give us a chance to think about all of the intricacies, because it's really hard to go from somewhere where we know this line was important. Jonah's arm was important because it kept everything under control. How could we possibly let it go? Everything will be wild. But remember that we have justified every single line of oppression we've ever made in our system, and every single line of oppression that's ever been liberated through and abolished had a reason behind it that somewhere someone was like, yeah, I agree to that. So we need to start exploring and picking apart and looking at what kind of abolitionists, not just that we can be, but that we are going to be. So that will be in all ages space open during and after service all of June and July. Lots of books to read, letters to write, activities to explore, all sorts of things, okay? Because if we want the system to be healthy, then we have to be using our theology towards liberation and doing the work of abolition. Okay. Thank you everyone so much.